Hello there, this is Sherry from LifePlan, and today I have with me via Zoom, Kristal Kelly. Now, Kristal Kelly and I met, I don't know if you remember this, a long time ago when my family first moved to Niles through homeschooling, because you
Yeah.
were homeschooling your kids and I was homeschooling mine, and they were really little. And we were in, I remember K1 Club together, I think, but when they were really little doing stuff together. And then also I ended up volunteering at LifePlan, which was Pregnancy Care Center then. And Kristal was also at the Pregnancy Care Center. So we got to know each other through that. And she's going to be sharing some of her story today, which is really quite an amazing story of God's working in people's lives. So I'm excited to get to that. But first, Kristal, tell us a little bit about how you first came to Pregnancy Care Center LifePlan yourself.
Um, I I first came to Pregnancy Care Center. Well, I first made the first phone call because I was a doula, which is like a labor and delivery coach, and I we went to church at what is now the Embassy. I think it was First Assembly back then, and you always have a liaison who's talking about Pregnancy Care Center, and I just felt a tug on my heart, and I had felt it for a long time, but I was just kind of scared, and so I thought, well, I could go volunteer as a doula. Surely there'll be some moms there who would need support. So I called, and it was Jane Plank who answered the phone, and I went. Well, I don't even think I went in for the interview at first, but she said that they couldn't really use a doula at that time, but that they needed counselors. And I knew that the Lord had already told me that He wanted me to volunteer as a counselor, but at that time I was scared because I really thought that um, I I would all I would have to do would be all I'd be doing would be trying to talk girls out of having an abortion.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, now I know that really isn't really a lot of what we do. I mean, that does happen, but that's not my job. That's the Holy Spirit's job.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went, and talked to Jane, who is wonderful. And that was a long time ago.
A long time ago. How long was that?
My
About
gosh, you lose track, but I want to say it was Lily, my oldest or my youngest. I want to say she was a toddler.
wow.
So she's 17 now. So I don't know, maybe 12 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't know. You'd have to ask Lisa.
Yeah. So Kristal's been a part of LifePlan for a long time. You've gone through different people. You've gone through the name change with us. You've gone to different buildings
Yeah.
with us. And now you're a shift leader. And you just recently helped lead the baby cakes cupcake contest, which was last weekend. So a lot of involvement with LifePlan and Pregnancy Care Center. So this is Sanctity of Human Life Month, which is a month that is set aside to recognize the value of all life, born and unborn. And, we all have those sanctity of human life stories, things that happen to us or things that have made us think more about the value of life and the sanctity of life. And Kristal, you have a pretty special sanctity of human life story. And it starts, well, when you were born or even before you were born, um, as you were adopted as a baby. And tell us a little bit about that. When did you first find out that you were adopted?
This is kind of funny because I don't remember ever like having a moment where I found out. I feel like I've always just known.
Mm-hmm.
But as my story kind of unfolded and I would kind of talk about it on Facebook a little bit, I have a friend that I've known, pretty much my whole life. And she told me that I told her when I was in second grade.
Oh, wow.
she said, Kristal, I remember when you told me, she said, I remember you coming to school and you were kind of upset and you told me that you had just found out. So apparently I found out in second grade. But
Wow.
she just told me that this summer. So, but I don't remember that. I just remember feeling like I always knew.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So how did you said you feel like you always knew, and then you have your friend that said that she remembers you telling her. How did that impact you growing up? Did it impact you growing up?
I don't, I don't feel like it did. I, I think I have had a very supportive family.
Hmm.
They never made me feel different. Um, I even have had family members over the years say that they felt like I looked like them, like I
Yeah.
fit in so well.
Yeah.
You couldn't really tell, looking at family pictures, you couldn't tell that I was not one of the cousins that was adopted, you know. So it was never like I was different from anybody else. So um I never felt different. So I don't feel like it impacted me in that way.
Did you ever think about your birth parents growing up? Did you ever have a desire to meet your birth mom?
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
Always did, yeah.
Yeah. So fast forward to you as an adult. In fact, pretty recently, really, where this part of your story came out. Why don't you share the rest of your story with us?
Okay. Um, well, I always did have that desire to find out, where I came from and um, kind of what my past was. And but I always knew in my heart that when the time was right, the Lord would he would he would open that door for me. He would show me. And I was born in Indiana, and that's I had a what was called a closed adoption. So my records were sealed. My mom and dad only um, they only ever knew that I was born in Indiana in South Bend,
Okay.
and so that they told me that much, but that's all they knew. So that's all I ever knew. And but in 2018, in September, the state of Indiana opened a number of files. I want to say, like, if you were born between 1970 and 1998, all those records were opened.
Wow.
So they were all released. And I was born in 74.
Mhm.
So they opened, and all you had to do was get online and print out some paperwork and fill it out and send it in. So I did that in July of 2019. I felt like I was ready.
Yeah.
It's a big step.
Yeah. That is a
I
huge
always,
step.
yeah, I always thought I would do it like, the day of, but when it happened, it was just like, okay, I can, but am I ready? And I
Mhm.
wasn't. So I did, and everybody was. So it it took time, but I got my paperwork in the mail in November of 2019. And what I got was my original birth certificate, which had my birth mom's name.
Wow. She had a name.
Yeah, it had her name and the address. I think has her address on it of where she lived at that time and her age. And it actually had that she had named me. So I had a different name when I was born.
Mhm.
And then I'm trying to remember what else was in there. Oh, my adoption record,
Okay.
which that had a little more information on it. When I showed my mom, she didn't, there was things on it that were different from the record that she had.
Hmm.
So that was interesting. Yeah. So,
So let me back up a second. You
okay.
said that it had your birth mom's age.
Yeah.
Do you want to share with us? How old was she?
Yeah, that's a pretty important piece of the story. She was 16.
16.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
When you saw that, what went through your mind?
Well, I cried, I really was overwhelmed,
Mhm.
and I just it was just the whole day was overwhelming. I remember pulling up to the mailbox, and I just knew it was in there. I knew the paperwork was in there that day. I think the Holy Spirit just prepared me
Yeah.
because I was kind of expecting it to be there in December because they had said that it would take about 6 months. But I just knew that day when I pulled up to the mailbox that it was in there, and there it was. And it was just overwhelming, and I was here alone. Well, I think my mom was here, but she was in her room, and but the kids were gone, Scott was gone, and I just sat there and cried.
Mhm.
It's a big deal,
Absolutely.
and you never, when you're a kid and you're adopted and you don't know anything, you just know you're adopted. Your mind plays all these scenarios, you know, um, of what it could be, excuse me, what could have happened, and you just never know what the real circumstances are, and then you grow up and you're 45 years old and you find out that she was 16.
What a what a testament just to her and to her courage.
Yeah,
Because here she is, 16 years old and pregnant in 1974 when
yeah,
abortion was legalized in 1973. And
yeah,
she makes a choice to give you life and to place you in a home with people that would love you and raise you. I mean, that is amazing. That is wonderful to her for her to do that. I'm
it
grateful.
is. It
Yeah.
was.
So
It
but
was.
that's not the end of your story. So you get this information. You now have a name. You have an old address. What happened next?
Well, I on Facebook, I was part of a couple of adoption pages, and one of them was, I think it was called Indiana something, Indiana adoptee something. But there was a woman on there who sent me a private message, and she said, "Crystal, I can help you find your birth mom."
Wow.
I said, "Okay." And she said, "I just need this information from your birth certificate." Okay. So I give it to her, and I'm thinking, it's funny for me to talk about it now and look back now, but it was not funny then. um, I thought it would take like, a week or a couple weeks. So I give her the information, and 45 minutes later,
Oh my.
she starts pinging my phone with like name, address, phone
Wow.
number, Facebook page, my birth mom's Facebook page. Her daughter, I have a sister, a half sister, and her name, address, Facebook page, and I just like, I'm just staring at it. I just stared at it, and I had to put the phone down and just like walk away because
Yeah.
it was just so completely overwhelming.
Yeah.
And after that, I spent a couple days just on my couch, just, you know, emotional, and
Mhm.
and I remember telling Scott that it was like I waited my whole life for this piece to my puzzle. Excuse me. But then when I got it, I didn't know where it fit.
Mm.
I didn't know how to place it.
Mhm.
And but it was I just felt like it was all too much, and too much information. It was just too um I felt like it was like those old internet commercials when the internet was first coming on and DSL was first coming in, and it was all all the information was trying to come into your house, but you didn't have enough. Do you remember those?
I don't.
No. I remember they would show like pictures of like a plug that was overwhelmed with information.
Wow. I don't remember that at all, but then I was in a small town, so we probably didn't have that yet.
But bandwidth, that's what it was called. It was it was like I didn't have enough bandwidth to take it all in. So I finally I just I took I decided that I had what I needed, and I took my birth certificate and my adoption record, and I said, this is what I can deal with right now. This is what I've waited for, and I am happy with this right now. And I talked to a friend of mine. I talked to her mom, and they had adopted. They had a couple of biological children, but they had also adopted 4 or 5 children, and they had helped them find their birth parents. And so I felt like she could understand, you know, me and how I was feeling, and kind of help me talk through, because I felt like I needed help, and so after I talked to her, I said, Scott, this is what I can handle right now. And I was just happy to have a name, and and my information, because that's really what I had wanted for 45 years.
Right.
And she said, Kristal, when it's time for you to, communicate with her, you'll know. And I said, okay, and she was right. And so, in March of 2020, probably in February, I think, because it took me probably a good month to write that letter. Because it's not, I think I said, how do you write a letter to someone who's your mother, but also a complete stranger?
Yeah. Saying, I'm your daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So it took me a good month. I would just sit down and write it and then throw it away, over and over again. And so I sent it in March, and I think I sent a couple pictures, because that adoption page that I was on was really helpful, and I think it was only for adoptees, it was not for anybody else. So you could kind of read, people could get on there and be honest and about what they were going through and their feelings, and not worry about any other side of the story. And other people, people like me who were going through or had already gone through the same thing, and they made suggestions. And so I sent a couple pictures and my information, how to get a hold of me, and I just prayed and waited, and it was hard, but and then I got a text message from my sister, one of my sisters, and it was actually in the middle of the lockdown, at the very beginning of it, I think. And I was supposed to be doing virtual clients that night. And I called Lisa and I was like, I need somebody to take over, because I can't.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And it kind of went from there. And I found out that I have 2 half sisters, and a brother, and a lot of aunts and uncles and cousins. And
so talk us through that first meeting with your biological family. Who did you meet in person first?
I met my sister Ashley in May, I think.
The one who sent you the text message.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Kind gosh, it was just unreal. It was just kind of crazy to think that I have this whole it's a big family. There's a lot of them. Living just most of them in South Bend, you know?
Yeah, just right across the border from you.
Yeah.
Very close. Yeah.
And one of them was so funny. Um, I have an aunt that I had actually met her quite a few times, but did not know that she was my aunt.
Yeah.
She worked in a chiropractor's office that I went to. So
Wow.
that was really funny. And it was kind of like, I just joked. I was like, this is the life of an adoptee, you know?
Yeah. Wow. So let's talk about your birth mom, meeting your birth mom.
Yeah. That took a little while. We started communicating, I think, in August via text message. And, we were both scared,
Mhm.
and, so we finally got to meet, and, you know, one of her first messages to me was, she was just so overwhelmed. She never thought that I would ever be able to find her.
Mhm.
She never thought that there would ever be a way. And so when she opened that letter, she just kept it for like a week. She didn't show anybody, and um she was just like she was as overwhelmed as I was, I think, those 2 days that I spent on the couch.
Yeah, sure.
But one of the things that she said was, I never wanted to give you up. I wanted, um, I didn't want you to go through what I had went through. And she had left, at 16, she had walked out of an abusive home,
Mhm.
pregnant, and, just in really bad circumstances. And, she didn't want that for me. And I think that is, unfortunately, that's a very common scenario,
Mhm.
for teen moms. And I said I completely understand, and I never have had any kind of hard feelings towards her, even
Right.
before I knew who she was.
Right.
You know, I I knew that there had to be some kind of circumstances, no matter what they were. I've always known that I was where God wanted me to be. So adoption was just the vessel that he used to get me there.
That's beautiful. Just, it's always so cool to hear stories and to hear how God works and has been working in people's lives, and both in the life of your birth mom and in your life, through all of that. So
Yeah.
such a neat story, and a great sanctity of life story, about just no matter how bleak the circumstances are, God can take a story and God can use that form and bring glory out of it and bring something good out of it. And you were
Yeah.
something great that was brought out of not so great a story for her. And just,
Yeah.
seeing all of that, and then the fact that you guys are able to meet again, and she can see that, and she can see God's grace in you as well. I'm sure you guys have probably had some kind of conversation about that, or you probably will be having conversations about that, just how God can work those things out.
I, you know, at one point she asked me where I worked, and I told her, I said, I've met quite a few quite a few moms like you. And she said, so you've heard my story before? And I said, yeah,
Yeah,
quite a few times.
yeah,
And so that was just really cool. And I said, what you did was, hard and brave, and but I've seen your story before. You know, I've seen what you've gone through many times, you know, and so
And that puts you in a unique position to come along and support other moms, other young teenagers going through similar things.
yeah.
Yeah, wow. Love it. Love how God works all those things out. So, what do you want everyone who is listening to know about adoption?
It seems like that'd be such an easy question. But I think that, you know, that phrase, you can't put God in a box. I think that you can't put adoption in a box.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that there's no one size fits all answer to adoption, you know. Um, you know, I've seen closed adoptions, I've seen open adoptions. I have walked alongside young women who have placed their babies. I've met the adoptive parents. You know, as a teenager, I was able to um, be with a friend of mine as she placed her baby. And, you know, I'm an adoptee. And now, you know, I've met my birth mom. You know, I've watched my own adoptive mom go through this process of me meeting my birth family. And, you know, I feel like I have seen it from so many sides. And, you know, it is an amazing thing, and it can be beautiful. And, um, you know, I don't really like those slogans. Adoption, you know, adoption is an option. Adoption builds families. I'm not really a big fan of those.
Yeah, sure.
But it does do those things, but it can also be messy and difficult. You know, this has not been an easy process, but it has been worth it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think that people should understand that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that people should understand that adoption is not a door that you walk through and then close.
Right.
It may need to be that door may need to be reopened later in life. You know, and that's something that the whole family should understand and be okay with.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's okay for adoptees to need to understand where they came from,
Mm-hmm.
because it's part of who they are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've meeting my birth family has helped me understand why I do some of the things that I do. You know, why I am so outspoken, and, you know,
Yeah.
just it just helps you understand things about yourself, and it's okay. I think that people should talk to adult adoptees. You should talk to adoptive parents. Talk to the whole scenario of people. Adoption is made up of human beings. It's made up of people, and people just, you know, you live your life and you go through life, and life is a messy process.
Mm-hmm. Very good. You mentioned real briefly the adoptive family. How did your family, your adoptive family, respond to all of this?
Um, you know, my husband and my kids, they just kind of stood back and let me go, let me go through it. You know, they were very supportive, but they didn't really know how to do it. So they just kind of stood back and let me take my steps.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was actually really amazing. Um, I didn't I didn't really know how she was going to handle it, but we were able to be really honest with each other. And you know, at first she was a little insecure hear about it, but I said, this doesn't change who we are. I'm your daughter. I love you. You are my mom, and that is not going to change. This is just about me finding out where I came from, and once we had that conversation, she was great. And I said, I need to know how much of this process do you want to be a part of? Because I want to be honest with you, but I don't want to hurt you. And she said, you're not going to hurt me. I want to know however much you want to share with me.
Beautiful.
And yeah, it really was. And so she's been just great about it. She asks questions, and she's met an aunt and a cousin.
Hmm.
And so yeah, they so far everything has been good. And my birth mom, she has said, how thankful she was for my parents, you know. So, you just when you go through these doors, you just don't know what's going to be on the other side.
That's right. But you know who's
But
with you all the way.
yeah, but I've been really, really blessed. And I think that, God gave me this rare opportunity to see like a portion of my life come full circle where he sent me to LifePlan, like 12 years ago, and had me working with teen moms
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and um and women who have been in this situation, only to find out that my own birth mom was a teen mom,
Yeah.
and it was just amazing. And yeah, I still sometimes just sit back and go, wow, Lord, and that song that came out last year, The Goodness of God,
Uh-huh.
and that part where it goes, your goodness is running after me. I like related to that song so much because I can see that. I can see how his goodness, you know, ran after me my whole life and even pushed me into places.
Yeah. And that song, all my life you have been faithful. All
Yeah.
my life you have been so, so good. And that's just, you can just see that in your life.
Yeah.
The goodness of God just pouring through you. And it's exciting, so exciting to be able to watch you from this side of things. Because I remember when you were coming in at little stages throughout this whole story, and just knowing that God is still working on this story and what he's going to do with it. It's exciting to think about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe overwhelming at this point, but yeah, he's still working. He's still working. He's still running after you too. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kristal, for sharing your story with us. And I'm sure there were people that were watching or listening that have been touched by what you said and encouraged by what you said. And let me just encourage anybody out there who's watching this and listening, if you have any questions about any of this stuff, to give us a call at LifePlan at 269-684-6200, or check us out online, www.lifeplan.org. We'd love to talk to you more about sanctity of life and adoption, and how you can even come in and be a support for young ladies like Kristal's mom and other people that we work with. So thank you very much for joining us today, and have a great day.